Hello everyone and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast. This week we'll be discussing the episodes broadcast in the UK on the BBC from Monday the 19th to Friday the 23rd of April. My name is Alex and I co-host with my good friend Rob, who, if I believe, is right now outside Elstree Studios, and he is... Yes, hello Rob, are you there?
Hello, Alex. Yeah, I'm just being dragged away by a policeman. Get off me. Don't touch me there, officer. Put your truncheon away. Hi, how are you?
I'm very well.
Right.
Were you able to smuggle yourself into the studios?
Well, no. Funnily enough, they seem to have quite high security around these BBC studios. Who'd have thunk it? People have been going mad for this week. I said flippantly that if they killed Kush, that I was going to go and protest outside Elstree Studios. And people really took me at my word for that, didn't they? It was amazing. I think John Sen might currently be hiding in a cupboard from my wrath.
I have had so many messages this week. No lie, I've had so many messages asking whether you're on the train to London, whether you are in London. Someone was asking us if you got the chance to talk to any. Honestly, Rob, people wanted results. I'm a bit disappointed now. Actually,
I wish I'd gone now.
Well, I wish you'd gone too. I wanted you to, with camera in hand, just hire.
You're chasing people down the road.
Yeah, like some kind of documentary film,
like Panorama.
Yeah. What do you feel about the recent killing of Kush?
Why have you done this, Mr. Sen? Tell us why.
You just see this twitching curtain of John Sen in the window. The reflection of his glasses in the sunlight as he just looks out the window, worried.
Sound of Kate Oates' heels clopping on the street as she sprints down the road.
I mean, we are going to be talking about the whole debacle, shall I call it?
You wait.
The story. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the show, and and our thoughts about it. Of all the days they could have chose to kill off Kush, my birthday.
Your birthday. Alex's birthday was last Monday, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I thought they killed Kush on my birthday.
I know, apart from seeing, one of your favourite characters sliced in half by a train, did you have a nice day?
Yeah, it was a good day. Apart from the fact that Ben bought me coffee granules, believing that they were instant coffee granules, and so now we've had to buy a French press cafetiere. Oh no, I've not pushed a boat. I got a 20 quid one from the shop down the road.
I can't believe he's given you coffee.
Well, I'm having one right now. It's a Starbucks blend. It's very delicious, I must say. Oh yeah.
Have you ever half live?
Tell me about it. Although he bought it on bulk on Amazon, so there's about 20 boxes now in our shed where it's slowly getting damp. So anyway, enough about us. We're not important. There's far more important news that's been leaked this week as well.
Now then, ladies and gents, we have had some seriously huge news revealed this week. Now, as usual, what I'm about to reveal to you is a massive spoiler for what is to come. So, if you're not interested in spoilers and you don't want to know what's coming this year, do not listen. Just fast forward. All the little chapter things will be on the YouTube video if you're watching on there. So don't blame us. We've warned you. Spoilers are coming, but it has been revealed, leaked we should say, it's not been officially confirmed, but basically every paper in the land is saying the news that Janine Butcher is on her way back to Albert Square. I'm so excited. Iconic villain Janine, played by Charlie Brooks, is reportedly part of a huge story airing later this year. Janine Butcher is set for an explosive return after 7 years away from Walford. The iconic villain, played by Charlie Brooks, left Albert Square back in 2014, but is gearing up for a major comeback as part of a huge story airing later this year. Murderous Janine, who is the daughter of Frank and stepdaughter of Pat, was last seen in St Pancras as she boarded a train to go to Paris, where she joined daughters Scarlett and Diane. A source told The Sun. Bosses have a huge story planned for Charlie's return. They're keeping tight-lipped about whether Janine will come back as a reformed character after all the chaos she has caused in the past, but she certainly has a lot of history in Albert Square, so whether she will be welcomed back with open arms or not remains to be seen.
Wow. I mean, can I just quickly bring up the the fact that it was leaked. So they obviously had no intention to release this news this early on, but given the week, the episode, and the fallout, and the fallout that the EastEnders has received through pretty much every media source, journalists,
even
even people who pretty much will say that EastEnders is the best show on earth had a few things to say about what happened this week. Do we?
Yeah.
I don't know. They. So I think this was very much a strategic.
Go on, get it out. Go on.
Strategic move by the EastEnders production crew to kind of just brush away what's happened this week, to say like, oh yeah, but we are doing this now. So Janine's back. I mean, it's great news. It's great news, isn't it? It's fantastic. It's surprising news. It's shocking news.
Nearly had an aneurysm when I saw this story. I'm so excited. I'm scared about what they're going to do with her in this era, I'll be honest. But, oh my God, Janine's coming back. This is I think this is genuinely the biggest character return they could have done, don't you?
It's such a shame though that she has got no one to come back to. That's the only thing I think is a bit of a shame, because obviously Frank's died, Pat's died. There's Tiff. Obviously, there's Tiff. That's a connection with her, but
Whitney, yeah.
Well, I suppose, yeah, sort Whitney. Of. Yeah, no, you're right.
Stacey and Kat stuff can still go on. Because she has always had a long-running rivalry with them, so that doesn't necessarily have to have gone anywhere. What are your predictions? I mean, we know absolutely nothing about her return story or anything like that. What are your predictions?
Gets together with Gray. Gray kills her.
Yeah. Well, no. I do predict that she's going to get with Gray, because in going by Janine's character history, Gray seems absolutely up her street.
Oh, 100. Yeah, absolutely.
Rich. Absolutely. In fact, there's I can see her sort of doing a sort of Michael Moon on him, in all honesty.
Exactly what I was thinking.
I would not be surprised if Janine comes back and kills him.
That's to be honestly, that's what I was thinking, the Michael Moon thing. I tweeted that I think Michael Moon is the direction they'll be going with this. She has to be involved with the Grey story. The Grey story is obviously the big story that they're really pushing, and
pushing hard.
They're pushing very hard. I'll be very surprised if Janine doesn't have any involvement whatsoever with the main story of the show right now. And as I say, the main story of the show right now is the Grey Show. I've been told by a few people this week that it's a Kate Oates staple, a serial killer storyline. Yeah, exactly. And it's what she kind of led Coronation Street with. I believe that's how she kind of led Emmerdale, as well. So this is obviously going to be the big picture, and Janine's going to be part of it. I hope she is actually the ultimate demise of Grey, because it almost gives, because she got away with murder once, didn't she, with Michael Moon?
3 times.
Oh God, of course, Barry as well. Why do I always think Barry, the most obvious one, the one that everyone kept referring to when? So she's gotten away with murder. Will she get away with it again though? This is the question. Is it 4 times a charm?
I mean, to be fair with Janine, her thing does seem to be that she gets away with murder, but there's got to be a point where Janine gets caught for something. Mind you, she's been to prison enough times, hasn't she? So, what are we thinking about how she is going to be handled? Because the thing is, Janine has so many layers to her. So many layers. And I'm worried about the fact that she's going to come... I'm looking at, sort of iconic soap bitches returns of the past, few years. I remember, Claire King as Kim Tate coming back in Emmerdale, for example. It was all very cliche. She came back, was an absolute bitch to everybody for no reason whatsoever, just because she's Kim Tate, and then got pushed off a balcony by a mystery assailant. Just because, it's a soap bitch thing, so I've got to be a soap bitch to everybody. Same thing happened with Tracy Barlow in Coronation Street. So I don't want them to sort of bring Janine back and for her to just be this camp, over-the-top bitch for literally no reason. The thing is with Janine, she always had a reason for being how she was. No matter how warped that reasoning might have been in her head, there was a logic to her at most times. No matter how insane she got, there was always a reason for how she was the way she is. And there's so many reasons to why Janine is the way she is. So many reasons. So what are we to expect from her when she comes back, do you think?
Well, the $million question, isn't it? Because we don't know what Janine's returning for. So what reasons are there for to her to be a bitch? There doesn't seem to be anything there for her to be, this villainous character. So something has to happen while she's on the square, unless they're going to fabricate something outside. I mean, I've just remembered something that she sold the house that the Slaters are living to the Panasars. Would that maybe have some kind of connection?
Well, this is the other thing. What had like the best case scenario for Janine, which I would absolutely like love. Imagine, right? She came back, got with Kirat, and her and Suki absolutely came to loggerheads. Can you imagine?
I mean, yeah. That'd be
Can
fantastic.
you imagine?
Because Janine...
Excuse me, I just gave myself an erection. Do you know what I mean? Like, how amazing would that be?
I mean, this is what I mean when I said about Pat not being there. It's like Janine needs that kind of dynamics, that kind of other quite strong female character to bounce off of. And so, yes, I'm joining your erection, Rob, and I'm thinking about the same. And it's just like had to have Suki as kind of as an enemy to Janine.
Suki versus Janine.
And
Suki versus Janine.
And I think Janine could stand up to Suki easily. I mean,
and vice versa.
Yeah. Because
there's not many people that could. There's not many people I don't think that could take on Janine so openly. But I reckon Suki would be the absolutely perfect enemy for Janine.
I wonder if Janine's going to bring back anyone else with her as well. Whether she'll bring back Diane
Scarlett?
or Scarlett. Yeah, because
how old is Scarlett now? About 9.
Not sure exactly, but I don't know if you've noticed, but especially this week, they're really kind of using the younger cast a lot more. They're using Janet, Will, Amy. They're using Amy. They're using Amy as well, and a classic kind of trope where they're using the younger cast for storylines now. They always don't feel confident enough to give them their own stories away from the adult characters. So if they were to bring Scarlett in,
you need to start putting the younger characters into training, don't you, for the next for the next sort of generation of characters,
rather than keep recasting them all the time. Use what you have, and you know what I mean. They all seem to have a good. They all seem to be good enough, I think. You know, Will's a great little actor, I found out this week. Fantastic.
My prediction is, to be honest, I reckon that they'll bring Janine back with Scarlett, who I think will be about Lily's age now, won't she? So those two will absolutely despise each other. just to keep that sort of generational, Janine and Stacey hate each other, so why wouldn't Scarlett and Lily?
Yeah, gives a good reason for why Lily was recast as well, to give her that kind of new dynamic. Yeah, I hope...
There's a lot of potential. Yeah. I don't want Scarlett to be sort of a mini-me to Janine. I want Scarlett to be a very individual... I like being the daughter of Janine. What does that do to a person?
I don't know. I think it would either make you basically a very damaged little girl, or it can make you stronger because you've seen... And also, we don't know what Janine's been doing outside of the square. I mean, outside of the square, she could have been... good as gold. She could have just maybe started a family, but it's gone a bit wrong. And, it's then adding this kind of background layer to what was Janine doing before she comes back later this year. It's exciting. It really is exciting. And like you say, of all the characters they could have said is coming back, Janine is obviously at the top of most people's list. I think she's only second to Aunt Babe. And I mean, there's time. There's time.
Bam. Yeah. In soap history as well. I think she's one of the most well-remembered soap bitches across all of the soaps. So the fact that she's coming back, I don't think we'll have her around forever. They're not allowed to kill her. I'm telling you now, you can't kill Janine.
Will you, Rob, if they kill Janine, be going to London?
Genuinely, I would this time. I swear to God. No, put it. I promise now, if they kill Janine off, I'll go to London. I'm taking you with me.
That's fine. I'll come along.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, I mean, apart from just being genuinely excited and sort of throwing theories around, we can't really offer anything more other than the fact that everybody is saying that Janine is coming back now. It's clearly a result of sort of the reaction to the Kush stuff, the way that they've sort of strategically leaked this. That's fine. Frankly, I needed this news this week.
Yeah.
So there's the news.
There's the hope that they don't Lucas it, let's just say, and make it a very drawn out affair. That's all I'm going to say. But I'm let's have some confidence.
Sure.
Right, so there's been plenty of stories this week to talk about that has been going on the square. What a week indeed. First of all, we're going to talk about Patrick's story with Isaac. Isaac discovered about Patrick's son this week, Paul. And
you were all very kind to remind me after last week's game he's not Patrick's biological son. I'm very sorry. Thank you very much. Let me know. I blame Vicky Tucker myself. If you're listening, Vicky Tucker, you got me into so much trouble this week.
And Isaac took quite an interest in learning more about Paul after Kim had, given him a few bits and pieces. The story's gone two routes here, really. With Patrick, it's, again, the story about about people of colour, diagnosis of people of colour, and how they're used as experimental devices in the NHS, but it's necessary because medicines obviously need to be tailored differently. But there's also Issac's story now that's taking the turn that we all knew was going to happen, because why would they announce that he's schizophrenic a month ago if they weren't going to then plan to give him a storyline where he doesn't take his meds? Because now he's lost kind of belief in the system, and he's lost belief in his medication, hasn't he? He thinks that his medication is going to do him harm. Well, because he believes that the system is against him, because he's been doing a bit of research about it. And like we said last week, we don't really know a lot about it. And I've had a few people get in touch with me this week about it, and kind of understandably are really kind of hooking onto this story and enjoying it. And it's a real people-based story, this, people who have been in this kind of situation where they feel like they're just being neglected. And especially with the rollout of the vaccine, where a lot of people from the BAME community, like they don't feel comfortable with taking the vaccine because, again, why should they? They've been ignored. They've been, pushed out of the queue before. So they feel like they're kind of like not involved and it won't work for them. So why should they care? And it's to be fair to EastEnders, this is a topic that needed to be discussed, and they are discussing it. It's just a shame that they then tainted it at the end of the week with the whole nuclear explosion of pills going down the sink. The bowling balls throwing down the plug hole of Issac's sink. Yeah, the thing is, though, yes, you're right. It is a very important issue to discuss, but they also seem to be saying that Issac is worried about it because he's a paranoid schizophrenic and doesn't take his medication, rather than saying that it's a genuine issue that is worthy of discussion. Do you know what I mean? Like, Issac's going around talking to Ash and talking to people about, Ash, who clearly knows absolutely everything there is to know about any sort of NHS thing. It's like any profession in EastEnders. If you're a police officer, you know everything about what's happening in the the police force that week. If you work in the NHS, then it's like when Ian thought that when he was basically getting poisoned by Sharon. Who did he go to basically get advice? Not your local GP. Oh no, he went to Sonia. So you're quite right, he chucked him out. Yeah. I don't know, it feels a little bit weird that they're sort of doing these two issues in conjunction with each other. Because they don't really sort of work together, because you're basically saying that because Issac isn't taking his schizophrenia medication, that is why he is thinking that about medication, about the NHS and all that sort of thing, when it is a discussion within itself to have. Yeah. So, yeah. The week ending with Issac throwing these pills down the sink. I'm not even going to moan about the music. Do you know, I was watching it with with a friend of mine, and she looked across at me after the duff had happened, and said to me, "Why are you rolling your eyes?" I said, "Well, because," and then went on this diatribe about the music. And she turned around to me. She's older than me. And she turned around to me and said, "No, I like that. I thought it added intensity to the scene." I was like, and then she gave me a perfectly valid sort of reasoning as to why it didn't bother her, and to why she felt that it added to the scene, and how she quite liked that EastEnders have been throwing in all these music things recently. And it's like we always say, we're not the gatekeepers of EastEnders. It's a completely subjective thing, but it happens. It's happening a lot this week, wasn't it? A lot of music and sound effects this week. Yeah, so much. They were used very heavily this week. I mean, I've said in the past there's been occasions when I've not minded it, but to add that really, like in 1996, for example, to add that booming sound effect, I'm trying to rattle my brain for why they would do that. Would it just because it is his mind thinking? Yeah, that's what I think. Get out of me, or come out of my system. Maybe rejecting it, or I don't know. I just can't. But I don't know. I'm not sure. But you are right. There is no need for them to intertwine a mental health storyline with a ethnicity in the NHS storyline the way that they have. But it's like what EastEnders does, isn't it? They take a perfectly reasonable question, look into it, flower it up with drama, and then flower it up with a completely ridiculously over-the-top outcome and scenario. And I mean, we've said this on numerous occasions. There's so many parallels with what's happening on EastEnders right now to what's happening on EastEnders. Yeah, it's unfortunate timing with that, isn't it? In the classic, on the classic episode, there's the Joe Wick storyline happening, and watching the Joe Wick story happening, where they spent months building it up, nurturing it. His progression into his insanity kind of grew and grew and grew, And it just feels, and it just, as soon as they said, they had the scene where Isaac said, I've got schizophrenia with Lola, I just knew that this was going to, I must admit, I thought a month was a long time. I thought it would be the next week. So to give them that, kudos to you. You at least held back the reins for at least an extra 3 weeks. Well done. Yeah. And you just know that next week he's going to start showing really bad signs for it. And then by the second week...
we're gonna have like his episode in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, a special episode. Yeah, and they'll publicise it, and they'll be like all kind of like, this is a special episode. You know, we're really delving into the whole schizophrenia problem. And again, they'll just dramatise it up and just make it ridiculously...
It does kind of concern me that we haven't heard anything about it. Because normally when EastEnders does a story like this, we normally hear... There's normally an interview somewhere that's said, oh, we've been talking very closely to Mind or, you know, some sort of mental health charity or organisation that we've worked very closely with for this story. We haven't heard a thing about that so far. So that's kind of make it... I mean, I'm sure they have, because you can't do a story like this without some sort of consultation with some sort of organisation that knows what they're talking about, surely to God. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, I nearly said it is what it is then. And it hasn't earned that status yet. So, yeah, I mean... Isaac's not taking his medication. That's the thing. I mean, how are we going to? Where does it go from here then? Because I don't think that they're going to go straight into Isaac absolutely at level 10 straight away. Surely,
I don't hold out a lot of hope that they won't. To be honest with you,
I know that.
To be honest, I think by the end of next week you'll be seeing scenes with Isaac running around with his shirt tied around his head, and yeah, I mean, it's like all stories. I had so much the schizophrenia story. I knew that they weren't going to do well. I'm sorry, but I just knew they weren't going to do it very well. And I'd like to be proven wrong otherwise. But with the whole...
it hasn't played out yet. You don't know that they're not going to do it well. You don't know that yet.
No, I don't. But with the BAME story, where they were talking about Patrick and taking the trial with the stroke and all that, that's such an interesting story. And again, not something that's discussed very often or very openly in a soap environment. And, you know, soaps are built for a large audience to see an issue and then discuss it. And I know that EastEnders don't get the ratings they used to get and blah, 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 but it's still discussed online, on social media. In fact, more so than ever. It's maybe not discussed in the office the next day, but it is discussed online the next minute after the episode's ended. And people do have, well, despite what people think of Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, especially our Facebook group, it's a very friendly place, and you can say what you like and you can discuss it, and, you know, it's the views are opened up there. And I just thought this was a real lovely opportunity. A bit like the Keegan story where, you know, he believed he was getting singled out because of the colour of his skin, and then you discover that he was, because there was that video footage, and he got justice in the end. I just thought this could be a really interesting topic to discuss. And as a white male, where basically I have pretty much all the privileges that the world can give me, I'd like to learn about it. I'm a particularly lazy person, and sometimes I like to be spoon-fed information, and to have it played out for me on screen would actually garner my interest for me maybe to learn more about it. And I just thought it's a wasted opportunity to then, as you said, to intertwine it with a story where I believe, okay, you're quite right, they haven't played it out yet, but I believe they will not give it as good a turn as they could perhaps do. Oh. But prove me wrong, EastEnders. Let's talk about the Carters, because Mick has been doing bonding exercises with his two daughters, because Frankie and Nancy have basically been a bit jealous of each other, I think. Nancy feels a bit like that every time she says she wants to do something, Frankie's like, oh yeah, I'll do that too. So it's like, and they had a good chat and they had a few drinks over a missing Monopoly piece. And
I quite liked that.
I didn't mind it.
The Monopoly thing, to be honest. That was quite nice. Mixed in with everything else that was going on in that episode. I liked the missing top hat stuff, trust me. Frankie's settling into the bit quite nicely. The fashion sense seems to be changing quite dramatically as well. She was wearing what was she wearing last night? Like some sort of, it was almost like Cat Slater, but like pink leopard skin sort of really tight thing that was. I think it quite suited her. It was a mad outfit. But she's getting into that sort of barmaid role, isn't she?
But she's been around Linda too long, probably. Linda's giving her tips.
Do you think they're getting jealous of each other? I think, mate, do you reckon Nancy's nose is getting put a little bit out of joint?
Yeah, I think that Nancy thought she'd come home and have this almost hero's welcome to like her family with open arms, and she didn't. She knew that obviously Frankie was on the scene, but perhaps she didn't know that Frankie was quite so firmly in the family unit now. And I do think that Nancy feels a little bit, as you say, nose out of joint a little bit, feels a bit like she's kind of being pushed to one side. I mean, at the end of the week, even Mick said, like, you know, next week, it's your last week here, we're going to spend more time together. It's family time that we can spend together now. And presumably, we might learn more about why Nancy has returned next week.
What's going on with Nancy?
Well, this is it. We don't really know. We know that something is going on. She had a phone call at the end of the week, and she said, "I'll make the appointment on Monday."
Yeah, so confirming some sort of appointment. Is she preggers?
Oh, you reckon? God, why is everyone pregnant in EastEnders? Every single character's pregnant.
Baby boom in EastEnders at the minute.
Yeah. Everyone's on it.
I can't imagine Tamwa being the sort of person to take advantage of lockdown to have lots of rumpy pumpy, can you?
I mean, Tamwa seems to be out of the picture. Other than his mention last week, there's not really anything going on with him anymore. I mean, even the family aren't really asking about him.
No.
So it's like they know. It's like they know not to ask. They know it's best just to keep, you know, at arm's length.
They seem to be talking. Nancy's epilepsy has been brought up quite a bit this week as well. Because her and Frankie were talking about driving and all that sort of thing, and she says that she can't learn to drive until she's not had a fit for a year, and she's pretty confident that that's not going to happen. Now, the way that she says "I'm pretty confident that that's not going to happen" makes me wonder if whatever is going on with her is related to her epilepsy in some way. Has it got worse? Maybe because
Linda asked, didn't she? When was your last time you fitted? And
she sort of dismissed it though, didn't she?
Yeah, she kind of said, it's been a little while, but she never really gave a confirmed, this is the answer, did she? I would love to know what's going on with Nancy. This is one of the curiosities that I'm genuinely very hooked on. I want to know why she's. I want to know. I just want to know why she's back in, and in a strange turn up for the books, they've not really told us anything.
No, we don't know a thing.
No. So that seems interesting.
It is interesting. I wonder, and I do like the fact though that they're really building the Carters back up in the Vic again. They work there so well, don't they? It's a bit of a shame that they clearly don't work that well out of it. But then, if you've really established a set of characters in a location like the Vic, then it's pretty standard they're not going to really work out of it. To an extent, how long did they ever leave Peggy out of the Vic?
Yeah,
when she was in charge, not for that long, did they? So and the fact that they're really building up this family unit again. Frankie and Nancy's relationship is really working. To be honest, I thought they'd be at loggerheads a lot quicker than they presumably are going to be. So props for that. I like watching her and Nancy's relationship sort of developing. It's interesting to watch. The little bits of sign language they're throwing at each other and everything. It's nice.
There was a good scene at the park with Jean speaking to Nancy, and Jean obviously we still don't really know what's going on with Jean. I mean, this has been the longest. I mean, how long has it been since she's been undiagnosed for her cancer? Yeah, so I'm a bit worried about
4 months.
So surely it can't be that bad. I don't know. I
think she's not getting worse, is she?
But Jean is still kind of walking around like a wise old sage, handing out advice to anyone who'd listen. And she had a word with Nancy, didn't she? Because Nancy's kind of gave her condolences about Kush. Because you have to remember that Jean had a very good connection with Kush, with the Slaters. And Jean looked up and said, it's like sitting in the dark thinking there's half a movie left. And I thought that was an interesting thing to say.
I like that as an analogy.
I thought that was really interesting. And especially to say that to Nancy as well. So again, does this lead to her epilepsy? Is there something that her mortality is closer than she believes, and that's why she's going to an appointment on Monday? That's why she's broken up with Tamwa. Maybe she's been told that the epilepsy's gotten worse.
Can epilepsy be fatal?
I'm not sure. I
don't know. Google.
I'll leave it to you.
Can epilepsy be fatal? There you go. Epilepsy is rare. The leading cause of death among people with uncontrolled epilepsy. Sudden unexpected death in epilepsy, or SUDEP, kills 1 in 1,000 people. That's a stat that Walford can work with.
But there must be it has to be something medical. I can't help but think it must be something medical. The fact that she made an appointment on Monday, it was I suppose you make appointments for lots of different things, but when I think of an appointment, I think of either a haircut, or maybe that's the big storyline. Nancy's getting a mad haircut on Monday, and that's what she's been stewing about for the whole week. And Tamwa doesn't like it. Tamwa doesn't want her hair to be any shorter than it is.
And Mo called her blondie, and it irked her. It was like, not for much longer, Mo, not for much longer.
I'm gonna go brunette. This is one story that I'm hooked on, and it's very rare for me to be very hooked on the Carters story, because I felt a bit exhausted by the Carters after the last couple of years, and like you say, adding to the Carters, and it's not new blood. It's the same blood, but it's blood that we haven't seen for a while. So it's the blood that I want.
A fresh twist.
Absolutely, absolutely. All they need to do now is bring Lee back with a wife and 2 children, and I'll be there.
And a recast Johnny.
Next story then is the Billy and Honey and Janet story.
Oh, yes.
Janet is becoming an international celebrity. She is a model.
Same.
She is doing adverts left, right and centre. She's really getting quite a name for herself, actually.
She is. She's got 178 followers.
She has on social media. And I thought it was a bit strange. Honey didn't seem that concerned about her kind of using social media. I would have thought Honey would be a bit more restrained.
I would have thought Honey would have been absolutely terrified of Janet going into this world that Honey has been into.
Yeah.
And, in a lot of ways, damaged Honey, really, didn't it? Because it's kind of put that mindset of constant image in Honey's mind, which could go some way to sort of explaining why Honey is the way she is. But mind you, she did get some trolling this week from Amy, of all people, who, we don't know quite what Amy said to her on social media, but it was enough that it sort of went around the school, and some of the school kids were taking the mick out of Janet, to which Will's response was to punch one of them. And so Honey is rushed to school with Suki's greatest sympathy.
Yeah, we'll call it half a day.
Yeah, we'll call it half a day. Well, before you leave, put the sympathy cards at the top, please. Thank you very much.
I loved that line, actually, I must admit. Like, Suki cashing in on the death of Kush this week.
Kush. It's been a death. Move those sympathy cards right up now.
We've ordered extra flowers for the front of the store.
Oh, what a queen. And yeah, so she rushes to the school, and yeah, Will has been in this fight. Billy is outraged at first, but as soon as he realises what the fight was actually about, he's really proud of Will and says that it's quite right that he stuck up for his sister and punched some bloke. And in fact, if Billy had there, he'd have done the same, and I bet you bloody would have done as well, Billy.
Mm-hmm. And he blamed Jay as well. Let's also just quickly throw that one in.
For no reason whatsoever.
No.
Jay had no way of any blame attached to this whatsoever. Billy's just instant reaction, knee-jerk reaction is to blame Jay for something. Anything that he can kind of grasp onto.
I suppose he didn't blame Jay for Kush's death, quite honestly.
Probably, yeah, exactly. I reckon Jay did it. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
All of the Honey and Will and Billy, they see Amy in the street. Janet's playing on a swing, bless her, having a great time. And they make Amy apologise. She's like, it's about those comments that you put online, Amy. And Amy's like, oh yeah, that. No. I'm grunted by the fact that maybe they weren't all that serious, because it was sort of one apology to Janet. Janet was like, yeah, it's fine, I'm having a swing, leave me alone.
I think it was more the fact that Will had stood up, had defended Janet, and
Janet was really pleased, wasn't she?
Yeah, and also said like Janet was amazing, and and that Will was proud of Janet. And a couple of weeks ago, we saw Will being a little bit dismissive and a bit off with Janet, and it was nice to see him kind of being back on board and defending his sister and defending his family, much probably like what Billy would have done.
This even earlier this week, though, when Will was trying to tell everybody, oh, I did really well in my maths test this week, I was top of the class, top of my year, and Buddy's like, that's lovely, Will, shut up. Couldn't care less.
I've got this new filter that I'm using.
Shut up, your sister's got 178 followers, pay attention. Maybe we should get some tips off Janet for social media. I like this a lot. To be fair, I really, really like this because I think this is the most Janet's had to do for so long. I think Janet's starting to get her own stories now, which I'm absolutely adoring because Janet is amazing. And it's so nice that she hasn't been recast yet either, because the actress Grace, as she's known in the credits, is stunning. I love her. Yeah, more Janet, please, EastEnders. We love it. We love Janet, and I really like actually the relationship that's developing between her and Will. The actor who plays Will has grown about 4 feet as we last saw him, it seems.
Yeah, his voice has dropped as well, hasn't it?
It dropped massively, yeah.
You're like, hello, puberty, how are you today?
Yeah. I wonder when that'll happen to me. But yeah, it's nice to see it's like we were saying earlier, the young cast are slowly starting to sort of make their move, aren't they? In terms of like getting stories and all that thing, which is nice to see, And I think actually, if you think about it, they're getting together quite a nice little young cast, with Lily, Will, Janet, Amy, potentially, spoiler alert, Scarlett coming forward. There's potential there for a good little group to start forming.
And Bailey could be
added Bailey as well, yeah. And
that's
Bailey.
what I mean. They've got a good young cast joining.
Yeah.
And it's something that EastEnders has probably been lacking for many years now. They've just not been able to get like the right young actors on the show. You know what I mean? And so And the fact that they have, or they seem to have, and they're kind of building them up and they're kind of putting them into stories now. Janet's got her own. This is Janet's story, essentially. Yes,
Story.
It's about the parents and how they're protecting her as well. But at the end of the day, this is Janet's story. And I love that they're doing that. This is one thing that I would say, yeah, well done, EastEnders. This is exactly the route to take, because you need to start building up your younger characters. Otherwise, you've got no show to go to. You can bring in, new characters left, right, and centre all day long. But EastEnders is legacy. EastEnders is family, and you need those legacy characters to be on the show and not get killed off.
Preferably.
Preferably. But I love the Janet story, and long may she reign, the model queen. I love her.
Yes, we are Jan fans. #Jan fan.
So before we move on any further, Rob, it's time for a quick little cheeky game, I think. So return of an old faithful. It's Martin Fowler's 5 a day.
Hey!
Obviously Martin doesn't work on the fruit and veg store anymore, but continuity is not a problem for the production crew of EastEnders, so it's not a problem for us either. So we're going to continue the game tradition. Anyone who's not listened to the podcast in the last 2 years since we played it last, I'm going to ask Rob a question, and there's multiple answers to this question, but all Rob has to do is give me 5 in 30 seconds, and if he does, he wins an apple and a turnip for his tea. Yeah. So obviously Martin's been reminiscing this week about how he misses Kush, and he's taking a trip down memory lane of when Kush first came onto the square. And I don't know if you can pull your mind back this far, but when Sonia decided to make a charity calendar for children in need, and some of the residents of the square decided to get naked and pose for different months of the year. And the question that Martin posed to himself was, who was on that calendar? So Rob, in 30 seconds, seconds, can you name, apart from Kush or Sonia, because I've already given you those answers now, can you
out of order. Out of order. That was 2 of my answers.
Can you name any people who were on the soap of EastEnders on the November 7th, 2014 episode, who were named and or posed on the episode for the calendar? Okay, 30 seconds starting from now.
Peter Beale with his pickled onions.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure Dot was on there.
She was in the laundrette.
Yes. Mick Carter.
Yes, Mick Carter was there too.
I'm purely guessing from this point. Lee.
Lee was. He was mentioned but never seen. God. 5 seconds left.
Martin.
Martin was not, no. And time is up. Time is up. Now, it's a bit of a...
Very quick 30 seconds.
It's a bit of a trick, really, because Martin wasn't actually on the show at the time. He was... but he remembered it because lots of people talked about it afterwards.
Right.
So there's quite a few. So you could have picked a name pretty much out of the sky and probably got one.
No, I tried.
Whitney. Whitney posed with Lauren behind a Lilo beach toy outside the tube station. Do you remember Alex? Alex, the market trader?
Alex. I loved Alex.
Yeah, he was there with Roxy outside the fruit and veg stall.
Oh, yes.
They were January. Sharon posed in her pub at the time. She did a cabaret style pose. It was
fabulous.
Legs open, eyes open. Of the Carters, there was Mick, Linda, Johnny, and Lee.
Oh, I could have just gone through the Carters.
Yeah, Pam did it. Pam did it as well.
Oh, Queen
I know. Bring back Pam. Big Mo. Can't believe you ever thought of Big Mo. She's up for anything. She is.
I know.
And one which was the October. I'll give you a bonus point if you can guess who October was.
Well, that's my birthday month, so I wonder.
Well, and it was quite a royal character. Let's just say.
It was never Peggy.
No, it wasn't Peggy.
Queen?
No,
Queen herself.
It wasn't the Queen. No.
A royal person.
Not necessarily a person either.
Oh, was it Lady Di?
Lady Di posed for October.
Hey, I'll take that then. That's technically my 5, then I'll take that.
Whether she got her fur shaved, I'm not sure. But
bikini line.
Yeah, had her nipples out.
Lovely.
And I looked everywhere online to see if you can get that calendar. It's not in existence or anything. It's quite a shame.
The Peter
really.
Bill picture is available everywhere. And it's very nice.
There's a lot. There's a lot of pictures available everywhere, but no, I'm really surprised because that's quite a bit of nostalgia. That I'm surprised people didn't keep hold of it. Bit surprised people didn't keep hold of it. Anyone listening, if you do have one, please send us a photograph. We'll be very interested.
Please send us naked photos of the cast. We'd love to hear. We'd love to hear from you,
especially Lady Di.
Yeah, and Dot.
That was Martin Fowler's 5 a Day. Right, it's the time that everyone has been waiting for. We are now talking about the big story of the week. The death of Kush at the hands of Gray. But I just want to remind everyone that if you want to hear Ben and my view, as we did it live after the episode was aired on Monday the 19th.
Apocalyptic with rage.
You can listen to the recording that we did on stereo on our YouTube channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a little link now on the top right-hand corner of the screen that you can click on. We'll wait for you to listen to that and come back. Oh, nice of you to come back. Hope you brought some chips with you.
Good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all right. Not too bad. So anyway, I'm going to let Rob have a little bit of a talk here. So here comes Rob.
What the hell, EastEnders? Oh my God. There was so many things wrong with the way that Kush died. I don't even know where to begin. For a start, let's just go with technical details for now. Right. I know that there was a video released online, by the way, but this set of the underground was built. It was very well done by the set designers, by the way. They showed video of how it was all made and all that sort of thing. I liked the set. It was very well done. However, for a start, there was a picture going around at one point that there was a massive security camera sign there saying security camera in use. However, fortunately for Gray, what station was this? Walford East they were at?
Yeah, well, it has to be, surely, or at least a station nearby. Although a lot of people did say that Walford East is an overground station, but
we have seen it as an overground station before, haven't we?
Yeah, so I'm presuming that they took the train from Walford East and then took a connecting train, so they're at another station. But it was never labelled what station they were at.
Either way, it was the only station in the whole of the London Underground post 7/7 whose security cameras were, and I quote, out of action or vandalised. Thank you, PC Highway, for giving us that detailed explanation of how Gray is going to get away with this murder.
Can I chip in really quickly with agreement with you here? It's not just those cameras on that station that would matter. It's cameras that would lead to the station, cameras that would be on the tube train, camera that's in the front cab of the driver's tube train.
Yeah,
we had someone get in touch with us who is an actual driver for the London Underground, right? And he said, one, it's disgusting that they've done this because do they know the absolute trauma that something like that can cause for a train driver? And they just kind of dismissed it as nothing at all. And there's cameras in the front cab, so they would have seen it because he was pushed in front of it. He wasn't knocked underneath it; he was pushed in front of it, wasn't he?
He got sliced in half by a train.
Yeah. So
because he fell backwards, completely lengthways across the track. I think there was a few people online saying that there was a sort of, I think the official term for it is a suicide pit, for obvious reasons. So that if you fall or jump onto the tracks, there's an area where you can basically be protected from a train that's oncoming. But the way that Kush fell was completely lengthways across the track, and then the train came along. So he was effectively sliced in half by an underground train. Absolutely horrific way to go for a character that did not deserve it in any way, shape or form. And the fact that in just a few moments we managed to completely summarize in a few bits about why it was so ridiculous and why it didn't work because of all the technical aspects that they tried to pass off as realistic but just weren't. Why did they decide to go, if they had to murder Kush, then why do they have to go for why that way? We've already seen Gray murder somebody within his house. As much as we didn't like the fact that he murdered Tina, we couldn't say that it wasn't, apart from the fact he wrapped her up like a subway, it wasn't, it's just an obsession. They want all of Gray's connections to be subway themed.
Oh God, yeah!
There you go. Tina gets wrapped up like a subway and Kush gets killed on the subway. So there was that. The fact that Whitney took Arthur upstairs. Arthur, how old is Arthur? Like 4?
7?
4, 5, 6, 7. Bladder the size of Norfolk, apparently. Because Whitney was gone for about an hour and a half. whilst Kush and Gray had this massive argument that went on for ages before eventually, Gray fell onto the line and then was pulled up by Kush because Kush is a hero, and then Gray kicked him out and pushed him onto the line, and then Kush gets run over by the train. It's just, why? Why the hell? And it's so cruel to Carmel as well, because she's had 2 sons murdered. Everything about it. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Every single thing about it.
I'm going to rewind a little bit then and talk about stories that were prominent before this storyline happened, where Gray basically eventually decided to kill Kush. And that is that obviously Kush had the storyline where he became addicted to gambling during lockdown.
Yeah.
The heist. The heist. And then had the heist. I mean, that was the downfall of that story from the beginning. Again, I know I've banged the drum about this so many times in the past. A really good story that could have happened there with Kush, and it didn't have to have anything to do with Gray or the Mitchells whatsoever. Why did they then pull Kush into this world, into this storyline, where then he would ultimately get killed by Gray? Because that's what I find really disappointing. If they wanted to kill Kush off, they wanted Kush to have an ultimate, because they knew the actor wanted to leave, then I think sadly a suicide would have been a much more fitting situation for him. And it would have been terrible, and it would have been awful and really sad. And as it doesn't change the fact that his mum's now got 2 deaths. Of her 2 sons have died. But it just feels so cheap and dirty that they kind of threw in. They decided to make Gray story, which is a whole new thing that we can discuss as well. The fact that they've taken a domestic violence storyline and
that's gone. That's a thing of the past.
What? But it's disgusting that they've done that. Why have they just completely thrown it, no pun intended, under the train to just kind of just ignore it and kind of put it, into this context? It really upsets me that they've taken 2 stories that could have easily been standalone stories of EastEnders, great stories to invest time into, and just decided to just make it a Kush gets murdered by Gray story because Gray is protecting the Mitchells, inverted commas, or is he doing it?
Protecting the Mitchells.
No, yeah, and now is turned against the Mitchells, and now is using it as a way of getting Whitney on his side, because ultimately he did this because he wants to get together with Whitney. So it's now a demented love story for how a man will basically get his the love of a woman. I just think it's awful, absolutely awful what they've done. They've destroyed potentially months worth of good plot storytelling with a Kush story with his gambling addiction, with Gray's domestic violence story where it's kind of stewing inside of him, and they just still got him together with Whitney, but they didn't need to do this. And that's what winds me up. They've just taken perfectly good stories and again decided that they want to take the most extreme route and did this. And why is that? It's just a cheap thrill that gives them 1 minute's attention and then they're just back down. It's just that they're constantly chasing a cheap thrill, and they need to stop doing that because it's starting to, it's already getting exhausting because next week. It feels
so cynical.
Yeah. And I hate feeling like this about EastEnders because even in its absolute lows, and I know a lot of people say, oh yeah, but at least it's not 2017 when we were watching Pasta Boil. Yeah, but at least that was a story.
I do agree.
Yeah, but well, at least that's a story that you could have some heart to it. Denise was in a real desperate situation and they actually followed it through. Imagine if they ended that storyline with Denise jumping in front of a bus. I don't know. I'm clutching at straws now with stupid examples of what could have happened. But it just winds me up that they keep going for the next big thing, and it just you don't need to do that. If you keep doing that, you're going to run out of steam. This is a soap. You've got to make content pretty much every day of the week. You're going to run out of steam soon, to the point that you're just going to soon aliens are going to land on Albert Square. It's like I can't think how they're going to jump the shark now. Like every week at the end of the week, I just think to myself, how are they going to just do something ridiculous next week now? And I know that next week is going to be Isaac related, and that's why I was so cynical at the beginning of the show with I don't expect much from the Isaac story, because it will just be something ridiculous with Isaac.
I mean, to be fair, it did lead into some pretty strong performances in the week. Shona McCarthy was great this week as Whitney. Considering that, Whitney and Kush have been together the grand total of about 3 weeks. And Whitney's acting as though they've been together for about 50 years. You know, it's nice. As we predicted, Carmel isn't going to be coming back for any sort of funeral. In fact, Carmel has actually said that, you know, the funeral was going to be held in Dubai. Actually, felt fairly understandable, to be fair, because if I was Carmel, I sure as hell wouldn't be going back to Walford for any reason whatsoever. You couldn't pay me to go back to Walford if I'd been through what Carmel's gone through. It's really frustrating. It really is. I feel so sorry for... I felt sorry for so many characters because there's so much potential in a lot of these characters that could have just been done better. You know, Gray is just... The thing is about Gray, he's killing off characters that are better developed than him, and that's why it's so frustrating. Because Gray at the start of this was a fascinating character. When this domestic violence story started, because it felt like they were doing a different version of a domestic violence story. Yeah. God, are they still doing that? But it's sort of like that. All of that has been just swept aside just to turn Gray into your standard soap psycho who kills people for no reason whatsoever, apart from the fact that he is a soap psycho. There's no reason for it anymore. It's just really frustrating. And to be honest, and it's a shame as well, because Gray started out as such an interesting character, I really cannot wait for the Gray storyline to finish now, because it's like, what the hell is he going to do next? Like, who else is he going to take from us?
Say you sat down now and you're with the writers, you're the executive producer. How would you like it to play out, or how do you think it will play out from now? So from this to the end of the year.
How would I like it to play out is... Well, for a start, I'd like them to find some form of way of immediately pinning Kush's death on Gray, because that would be realistic. We've got to work with what we've been given, haven't we? And the next thing seems to be... Because Gray's plan is basically now to deflect Whitney's anger away from himself and towards the Mitchells, isn't it? Now, I don't know quite what Gray's plan is in the long run. Obviously, he wants to get with Whitney, and it will happen at some point. And I imagine that's when the next sort of stage of domestic violence will come into play, because Whitney will start getting into an abusive relationship. Do you think they're not going to drag this out till Christmas, surely to God?
I can't see why they wouldn't. I really can't see why they wouldn't. Because it's, as I say, it's their A story. It's their main story. They've involved the Mitchells with it now, so it's going to be, you know, even more, I don't know, stretched out and used as much as possible. I mean, I said that the person who... This is before that they announced that Janine was coming into it. And so I've got a sneaky suspicion that Janine might be the one who reveals it now. But before then, I couldn't help but shake the feeling that it was going to be somehow Phil who finds out, and that Whitney basically uses Callum for protection, because we know that Whitney is going to blame, or is blaming, I shouldn't say is going to, she is now blaming the Mitchells for this, with a little bit of persuasion from Gray. And I think she's blaming Ben, isn't she? She's saying that Ben was the one who kind of probably...
Ben is the name she took a talon through on the card, yes.
Yes, that's right. I mean, I
don't know why she decided that I tell you what, I don't know why she decided that she needed a knife to go and sort Ben out. Those nails, she's like Freddy Krueger rather than Michael Myers, for the love of God.
Can we just talk about the whole knife crime thing again here? Because
I know what you're going to say. But to me, I knew that wasn't going to that wasn't going to turn into anything. You know, all it was supposed to be just an exciting end to the episode.
But the end could have been
immediately tied up.
But the end could have been her at the door crying. That was such a fitting end. Such a lovely end.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. You're totally right, and it was ridiculous. And the thing is, you know, we're supposed to be thinking that Whitney is so overcome with grief and anger about what's happened. Because the thing is, as well, they don't seem to be questioning that much how Kush has died.
Not at all.
Like, they just seem to be accepting the fact that he went under a train, but they're not exactly talking about, like, how it happened, whether it was suicide or whether it was... Is Whitney now going along the lines that he was pushed by one of the Mitchells? Does she think that Ben pushed him
No,
the
Mitchells are in prison. They were in prison the night it happened, so they couldn't have...
Yeah, so it can't be the Mitchells.
Well, but they could have hired someone to do it for them, and I think that's what Whitney is kind of basing
Is that what she's going with?
Yeah, that's what she's basing her theory on, her hunch, that she thinks that Ben had hired someone. Because when they came out the cab or the car, they discovered that Kush had died. Ben was very cold, wasn't he? He said, well, wants a grass. Is that the word of the week, grass? Wants a grass.
Even Shirley.
Wants a
That's
grass.
The other thing that annoyed me.
They
Even Phil was more human than Shirley was this week.
I mean,
what the hell was that about?
I mean, that was they really played dirty on Shirley as well. The fact that they gave her that line was like, well, you know,
it was horrible. It felt wrong coming out of her mouth
when they were toasting Kush and basically saying, you know, he was a good guy, and what happened to him, he didn't deserve it, and you know, in the Vic, and you know, quite rightly so, they toasted to him, and then Shirley was like, I'm not toasting to a grass, and it's like, oh no, that is nasty. That is not what you
Shirley.
do. No,
even especially seeing as though Phil of all people managed to stand in the square and say to Ben, yeah, well, you know, whatever sort of person was it, he didn't deserve that, and sort of walked off and almost gave Ben food for thought. So Phil can have that attitude. For God's sake, Shirley should be nowhere near it.
It was writing a character for the situation they feel the character needed to be at the time.
Yeah,
a trope that we're getting slowly more used to on EastEnders right now. It's baffling, absolutely baffling. Let's talk about Martin as well, because Martin's lost his best friend here.
Again, great performance from James Bye this
fantastic,
week.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he was brilliant this week. It's like, this is the thing. I do think that the cast are actually almost at their strongest at the moment, because to have these sorts of storylines that, if we're unconvinced by them, you know, how must the do you know what I mean? How must the cast be thinking, who've been playing these characters for years and years, be feeling about them? And they're conveying them as well as they can, and you know, there were some really strong performances this week. You know, one of the highlights, if I had to use that word for this story, would be the scene between Whitney and Martin, where, you know, they were sort of both trying to comfort each other but not knowing quite how to do it. That was nice.
I like the Martin and Arthur scene as well. That was both lovely, both scenes actually. The one when he said goodbye to Arthur when they were about to run away, but also the one when Arthur had just seen his dad dead.
Just seen his dad, sliced in half by a train. Yeah,
and the counselling by Martin. but it was a lovely scene. And again, I feel there's a part of me, you saying about like the actors are really giving it their all, considering when they see the script land on their doormat every morning, they're like, oh, for goodness sake, what's going on now? James Bye, I genuinely felt like James Bye had a genuine tear in his eye when he was doing his goodbyes.
This is so rubbish. Why am I doing it?
But not just that. I think like they've had such a lovely story between them. Like Martin and Kush have got such a lovely story between them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And such a good history. And
the
scene when Martin was looking through the photo book and he said, you know, Kush and I had a discussion about who was going to do each landmark moment for Arthur. So I was going to teach him how to drive, but Kush was going to teach him how to, you know, chat up a lady. You know, because he's a bit of a, you know, a bit of a Romeo in that kind of department. Yeah. And he's not going to see his first West Ham game. And, you know, that was perfect. That was good. I said on Twitter, I said the scenes itself, the reactions and the acting, I've got no problem with anything they've done.
No.
It's that the fact that what they've done is what's the problem.
The story itself.
It's the story itself, and that's the problem here. It feels like, again, a cheap bang just for the sake, and they've killed another character that could have easily been brought back in 5-10 years' time. And
Kush would have been around for years, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
he wasn't going anywhere.
No,
you know, Kush is a great little stalwart of the square. He's really settling in nicely. He was a character that I don't think any viewer could say, "Oh God, I wish they'd get rid of Kush." You know, because he was just a nice character.
Well, he was a good guy, and it's a soap where
you need that in a soap where EastEnders, because EastEnders isn't really known for its characters of high morals.
No,
is it really? You know, yeah, we love them. We love watching them, and we love watching all the scheming and all the backstabbing and all the arguments and all the affairs and all that kind of thing. Otherwise, the show wouldn't have been going for so long. But you do need that sort of light and shade, and Kush was one of those light characters that's there to sort of keep the show looking realistic. He was never the biggest character that EastEnders has ever seen, but he was, I feel, just one of those necessary cogs.
I liken a character, you know, when you see Mickey Mouse's ears, you instantly know this is a Disney thing. Do you know what I mean? So if you
Where are you?
No, there is logic to what I'm trying to say here. You know, when you see the silhouette of Mickey Mouse's head, you know that's Mickey Mouse, so that's the Disney.
Yeah.
There's certain characters in EastEnders where you see them and you think that's EastEnders. And for me, Kush is one of them. See, there is logic to my madness.
There you go. Got there in the end, yeah.
And to me, Kush is one of them. And at the moment, again, because there's so many kind of characters coming in and out, and I feel like it feels like EastEnders doesn't have that a lot at the moment. Like a lot of the traditional characters aren't there anymore. I don't know. Again, this is going all the way back to the whole argument of, but maybe England, maybe EastEnders needs to kind of get with the times, and they're kind of trying to get themselves align themselves to a whole new show. And yeah, we're shouting at clouds. But I don't know.
There's a lot of clouds, though.
There's a lot of clouds. but it's clear. It's clear to me that this was not a decision that a lot of people agreed to. And I would love to have been at the producers meeting or the production meeting on the Tuesday morning. I mean, I know that Kate Oates would have had to agree or okayed this. I would hope that she had, before it went forward. But I mean, I can't.
Can you imagine her sat at home going, "What's this? I didn't say yes to this."
Yeah, what's happened here? But I can't help it. Like we said already, like the news that they leaked inverted
It's there
commas.
for a reason.
They leaked that early for a reason, and that's because they knew that the backlash of this story has just destroyed the reputation of the show a little bit. Not only in the eyes of the viewers, but also in the eyes of journalists. I mean, I've seen articles, I've seen TV, people talking about it on television. And I suppose that's good. People are talking about EastEnders on television, but for the wrong reasons. So, I don't know. Is there anything else you'd like to add about the Kush story?
No, I think we've completely destroyed the show now. Yeah, carry on.
There'll be no Walford Weekly next week because we have been sued. Final story then, very quickly, is the Taylor story. Karen's been loaning money from a loan shark. Presumably she's been loaning it for a few months. But now she's lost her job at the laundrette. She's now getting threats to pay it back. They stole the game console that Bernie forgot to lock up in a cupboard. Yes. Apparently that's what they do now. So for one way to getting some money, Bernie has decided that she is going to nominate herself as a surrogate to Stuart and Rainie because they've now decided that they again want to have children, because Zara was meant to be meeting up with Stuart this week and Rainie felt a bit sorry because Zara ended up not turning up. That's something else. I wish Zara had turned up because I'd love to have seen Zara back on the show.
Yeah, it's nice to see kind of Stuart sort of... It's another one of these examples, isn't it, where Stuart's sort of trying to build himself up again as a normal sort of father. Bless him, he was in his suit and everything. Which is, always what a dad does when they want to impress their daughter.
Like a job interview.
It was quite sweet to see. Oh, bless him! And he had all these presents lined up, ready to give to her, and Zara just didn't bother turning up. Which kind of, I think, cements Rainie's head back in. Like, no, screw Zara, screw your kids. We're going to have one of our own, and we're going to do it right. So they're back on the hunt for a surrogate. And I think the idea at first is Karen wants to offer to be the surrogate for the money, which I'm not entirely sure was promised at that point. Was it? Like, I know that they offered Tiff and Keegan money, but I don't think when they overheard Rainie and Stuart talking about it in the Vic that any money was mentioned whatsoever. So Karen was just assuming that she was going to get paid thousands of pounds to be the surrogate.
And to be fair, I think they assume right though. I think that if they've offered it once, they're probably gonna offer it again to the right person.
I think they're gonna have to sign a few contracts. Bernie is now offering to be the surrogate to sort of try and help her family out because they have some Nintendo Wii stealing gangsters on their tail. Meanwhile, of course, Bernie and Molly are sort of slowly getting stronger. Have you noticed, whenever Molly's on screen, it snows? Is she Elsa?
Maybe Olive is in the background, hidden in the bushes, like giving her advice.
Honestly, whenever she's like she'll go to meet Molly in the square, and Molly's just sat on a swing going, "Let it go, let it go."
That'd be sweet. Go. I have a strong suspicion that they perhaps maybe just filmed all of her scenes in one day, not to ruin the illusion for you that she is somehow linked to
magical ice queen. She's a magical ice queen. You will shut your face.
I'm sorry. Sorry to ruin this for you.
You're the one that brought up Mickey Mouse earlier. If you're allowed to do that, I'm allowed to say that Elsa is Molly.
We're gonna get sued by Disney now as well as a BBC.
Yeah, bring it on.
Gonna need to get Gray as a solicitor. The story between Bernie and Molly is a wonderful story, and I'm glad they're doing it because Bernie needs a happy story. How's it going to link together though with Bernie? If Molly and Bernie are getting together, how's it going to link together with
badly?
Yeah, I was going to say, but they've only been together for like 2 dates by that point. But I suppose with the way relationships rocket on EastEnders, they're pretty much, moving in together and getting themselves a blooming hamster.
Is she going to do it in secret from her mum?
No, because she's doing it for her mum, so surely she'll be quite...
Yeah, but is she going to keep it? Is she? Yeah, well, this is the thing. Is she going to be open, though? Or is she going to keep it from her and then sort of pop out this baby and
surprise!
Surprise!
I've got £10,000 now! I don't know. But,
we'll see.
I mean, good for... In a weird way, I'm pleased that Bernie's involved with this story because it's nice for Bernie to have a story, and the fact that Bernie, it's like buses,
Bernie
isn't
has
it?
a story.
Well, it's like buses. Bernie has had no story for about 3 years, and then 2 come at once, and so she's like,
now she's got them coming out of her ears.
yeah, she's spoiled for choice. So, but
Spoiled
yeah,
for stories. And I like Molly a lot. I don't know why, but I really like her.
Yeah, she's quite warm, isn't she? And I think
she's got potential.
I heard you. I just
yeah, I know.
But yeah, we'd love to know what you guys think about the stories this week. All the details will be on I Ain't Want to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't want to gossip.
Okay, so this is the final part of the show where we discuss some of your comments that you sent to us on our social medias. On Twitter, @bass_baby has said, I hope they're going somewhere with Issac and trying to root out the systematic racism in the healthcare system, because if they don't, they are overshadowing the real problems we do have, and it's just insulting, to be honest. Well, this is what I said, really. It's kind of like they've
That's
kind
what
of...
we said, yeah, exactly.
They're kind of covering one problem with a made-up problem, as it were. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I just don't like the fact that they seem to be sort of making out that because Issac is only thinking about this because he's a schizophrenic and he's not taking his medication. Do you know what I mean? It seems to be the sort of tone that they're going for. I don't like it, but we'll see how it plays out. Marion McSaveni on Facebook says, the schizophrenia story is lazy and infuriating. If they are his tablets, unlike the Mark Fowler beautifully handled HIV storyline, I imagine this is going Joe Wick's tinfoil route. Given how she's criticising the Joe Wick storyline there, Alex. Given how often they fall back on Stacey and Jean not taking their tablets, it feels a little bit done to death. Yes, and normally when Jean doesn't take her tablet, she doesn't drop bowling balls down the sink or boulders even down the sink when she does it.
I forgot about that. They've already done the story similar to this when they were crushing the tablets to... Hang on, they were crushing... That was Shirley and Kush. Again, making Shirley's comment this week in the Vic even more painful to hear.
I know.
Yeah, Shirley and Kush got together to help Jean out with the taking her pills because they were crushing them in her soup. Yeah. Oh my God, my head is going to explode. I forgot about that. Anyway, nothing to do with the comment you just read out. Just suddenly reminded me.
I think the basic feeling of this week is a lot of people are sort of going, right, now what then? Go on then. And where are you going with any of this? There better be a good reason for what I've just had to endure. I don't know.
Can we write it off? Can we just write off this week?
Just pretend this week never happened. Right. What I will say to listeners, though, is remember, our opinion is subjective. It can get a bit heavy when we both completely hated a week. I get that completely. And there will be people that are rolling their eyes about how much we've moaned this week. I understand that, okay? Totally. Please, 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 if you liked this week, get in touch with us. We will read out your comments and we will completely respect your opinions and we'll talk about why we might be wrong. Because there is no reason at all why there is not some positivity to be gleaned out of this week. Maybe you enjoyed it and you can tell us why.
I mean, at the end of the day, if we could, what the wonderful situation would be if we could get every single person who listens to the podcast to be in one room together and we can have a great big riot and just talk about everything that we want to talk about in EastEnders. But, you know, your power is there just by commenting on the YouTube video or getting in touch with us on our social media.
Smooth. You can contact us on Twitter, Instagram @WalfordWeekly. Find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, click the bell to get notifications and comment on all the videos. We love to hear from you. You can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify, any of your favourite podcast sites. You can contact us on robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. We will be back next week, hopefully with a lot more joy in our voices.
There's one thing we must all remember. Be there or be out at square.
See you next week. Bye.